Okay, so this is another opinion piece that I'm reading, and this is David Cook, and it reads David Cook opinion: Who gets to carry guns in America? So let me say that again: Who gets to carry guns in America, and who doesn't? So this is by David Cook, Chattanooga Times, Free Press, Tennessee. And so I really enjoy the opinion pieces because they make a lot of sense, um, in the sense that you have real thought process to some of these current events that take place, such as this Rittenhouse verdict. So November the 20th, he was 17, a child essentially. Kyle Rittenhouse couldn't vote. He couldn't legally buy cigarettes, and he was barely old enough to buy a ticket for an R-rated movie. Yet last year, as a 17-year-old, he and others around him thought it was appropriate for him to carry an AR-15 style rifle into a public protest in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And so that day, young Kyle Rittenhouse killed two people. I have only begun to process his not guilty verdict announced on Friday afternoon. There is so much suffering and so many reasons to mourn. Rittenhouse may be legally innocent, but blood will remain on his hands, his heart, and possibly for the rest of his life. So the people I know who have killed others say such actions, firing a gun at another human being, watching the body drop, the blood spill from the wrecked flesh, the breath stop, will distort and haunt for time immeasurable. Self-defense, his lawyers claim. Would such a claim apply for every American? That's the question posed here. Consider local history: Ed Johnson facing a white lynch mob, the Cherokees facing forced removal, 5 black women shotgunned by the Klan in 1980. If they had armed themselves and shot their white attackers in self-defense, would the courts have set them free? It is hard for me to imagine a present-day black teenager carrying an AR-15 to a city's next protest, shooting 3 white people, claiming self-defense and receiving the same treatment and verdict as Rittenhouse. The criminal justice system seems more schizophrenic than blind. It has ruthlessly eaten up the lives of so many while bending over backwards to allow and sustain others' freedom. I think of Tony Oliver. Oliver is a black Chattanooga businessman. During COVID-19, he helped deliver some 20,000 meals to our city's homeless and poor. He owns T&T Cleaning, mentors both youth and adults, a husband, a father, believer. I want to keep growing my business so I can help others in my community, he says. So growing up, he made bad decisions. He robbed, fell into addiction, eventually serving some 17 years in prison. So in 2007, he became sober, starting and working full-time, fell in love, released from prison on probation. Oliver transformed his life. In 2017, he was working the late shift at a local manufacturing plant. His wife home alone at night. Their home had been twice burglarized, so she had bought a handgun, kept it in her bedside table for self-defense. So, with weeks remaining on his probation, authorities visit their home, found the gun properly secured on the wife's side of the bed for self-defense. But Oliver was a felon on probation. He is prevented from possessing a firearm. With his daughter watching, Oliver was handcuffed and sent back to prison. Why? His wife owned a gun for self-defense. A judge later dismissed the charges, yet Oliver says that his parole officer still forced him back to prison to finish his probation. He lost his job in the process, and this fall I read Carol Anderson's The Second Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America. This book should be required reading for every elected state representative and senator, as well as those in Congress. Email the reader who recommended this book to me. So Miss Anderson, her book delves into the real reasons framers of the Constitution included the amendment, mainly the threat from armed slaves and freed blacks. So the 18th century origins of the right to bear arms explicitly excluded black people, writes Anderson, who is the writer of the book, a decorated best-selling professor of the Emory University elsewhere. She writes, the Second Amendment. It was also designed as and has consistently been constructed to keep African Americans powerless and vulnerable. So can you think of any time in American history when black people collectively armed themselves against white violence and received full support of the Constitution, police officers, judges, and politicians alike for doing so? Philandro Castile, Alton Sterling, Tamir Rice, John Crawford, all black, each carrying or possessing a gun. Rice, 12 years old, playing with a toy gun. Crawford carrying a BB gun he picked up off Walmart shelf. They were all shot and killed by police. Who gets to carry guns in this country and who doesn't? So I don't write this out of reckless emotion, wanting to make a painful situation worse. I too own multiple guns, but if my black brothers and sisters can't carry their guns in the same way that I can, or Rittenhouse, then what role does the Second Amendment play in this country, is the question. This was written by David Cook, who writes a Sunday column and can be reached at thisfreepress.com.